Yeah, on this wet day. So I'm just going to we'll get things started. I'm going to start off with the prayer. Eternal God, source of all wisdom, as we reflect upon all those good things that we enjoy in the city and district, help us to make and keep our community a good place to be for all who live and, and work here. Grant that through our deliberations and decisions, we will provide wise and positive leadership seeking to solve problems effectively and justly, so that with courage and compassion, vision and energy, we may instill in our community aroha and harmony. Amen. All right. Are there apologies? I don't understand. I understand that there aren't any, but Rob's gone invisible, but he'll return, I guess. Are there any leave of absence? I don't have any either of that, so I assume we're all good with that. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Additional information or late items? I also understand there are no additional information or late items, so we should be good. Okay. Right. I've also added a slot in here. Oh, sorry, Philippa. Yeah. Yeah, I'll talk to it briefly in my message from the Mayor, and David can invite David to have to add to anything in here. I will touch on it, but and Deputy Mayor Helen would also like to say something at the end of this as well. So I'll talk to the message first, and then perhaps pass over to David, given where things are at. And so. This message, just as a reminder, is not just for us in the room, it's for the people of Whanganui. So I will talk to it as I'm talking to all of Whanganui, if you like. Tēnā koutou katoa, kia ora koutou ngā mihi nui. As we meet today, we first of all are thankful to date that Cyclone Gabrielle has not encroached too much on us here in Whanganui District at this stage. Our hearts go out to those around various parts of the North Island who are or have been lashed, including the Chatham Islands, as well as the family of the missing firefighter in Muriwai. I've just personally been in contact with my cousin who lives in Muriwai, and his house is now an emergency shelter, so he's good, but a number of his neighbours have lost their houses, so it's pretty serious up there. Many councils, emergency responders, civil defence and community volunteers will be responding to their community in different ways. At this stage, we are comfortable that Whanganui is in an okay place regarding the cyclone, with some likely minor flooding in usual low-lying areas. Perhaps actually might be a good opportunity while we're on the topic. Can I put you on the spot, David, and just pass over to you if there's anything to add? Or Lance, if he's in the room. Maybe he's not. No, Lance is on a call at the moment.
Through you, Worship. So not a lot to add, really. The weather overnight was less intense than predicted. So at this stage, Whanganui seems to have got off relatively lightly compared to other parts of the country. Lance, our Deputy Chief Executive, is currently on a regional civil defence call. So I'm expecting him to debrief with me after this meeting. He will hopefully be able to provide an update on what the wider regional picture is, and also under the national state of emergency, give us some insights if we're likely to be called on to support any other regions with our civil defence resource. But I can debrief you further once I've had an update myself.
Great, thank you, David. Any I don't want to push through this too fast before we go any further. Any questions around there? I mean, our civil defence team have been on the case on high alert for a few days. Obviously, we've known this is coming, and we've also tried to be proactive ourselves. We've gone through a training course, a lot of us, in the last little while. So I feel that we're in a pretty good space, just generally, but also specifically in regard to this particular event. But are there any questions? Are you happy with David's response? Knowing that there will be further updates. Okay, well, in light of that, I'll carry on. These types of weather events and being in and around the community, which we have, especially with the Masters Games just recently, and in this role provide a constant reminder that the reason we, elected members, are here is to serve and be there for our community. The recent emphasis on bringing transparency, visibility and openness to how council works and what we're up to is therefore vital to not only our local democracy, but also the concept of being a servant to our people. The latter part, I think, has been lost in politics, where it has often become about being self-serving. We are here to create great lives for our community, and when we distill what we do and why we are here, whether council officers or elected members, ultimately, in my view anyway, we are here for our community. Hence, taking council to the people, as I call it, is one way we can connect with our community. So how's this demonstrated? Well, what we've seen is that just in recent times we've openly communicated our 2023-24 rate journey and the current percentage. My view is, why hide this when it is much of our community's journey as it is our own? We're just the decision makers. We've also instigated what I'm calling community korero sessions around our city, with a plan to get out to our rural communities. We often forget about our rural communities, but they're just as important. Social media, I think, as we've seen, will play an increasing part in how we connect with people, and there'll be further ideas in addition to community consultation, which will also be considered as to how we connect with people. And I'm just conscious I've spent personally a lot of time sitting in my office and realising that when I'm out and about, it's not only good fun, but you actually learn more than sitting behind a desk answering emails. In addition to increasing emphasis on bringing transparency, visibility and openness of council activity to our community, the other focuses, the things on my mind anyway, are obviously rates, government decisions that affect local government, such as Three Waters, RMA and the future for local government, all of which are in a state of flux with a new Prime Minister, and finally, and the final thing is that ensuring that we're on top of major projects and CCO operations. These are things that are on my mind anyway. Emphasis will continue going on understanding our current state, so to speak, in order that we know our general council starting position well, in order to go forward with confidence. So we're in these first 150 days, and for me it's really important to understand and lift the bonnet up, so to speak, and have a look inside to see what's going on. And I think for all of us, we need to know our starting position. So that's what that's about. So part of this will be undertaking a CCO review. In regard to Three Waters, recently with council endorsement, I've signed a mayoral declaration along with the Christchurch and Auckland mayors, who I had pushed to be part of a wider agreement when meeting with other mayors in Wellington at the end of last year. I said to have some grunt and to have some power and resolution behind this, we needed to have the big cities sitting with us, and they've done just that with this mayoral declaration. So I'm hoping that the constant pressure on government, in this case with Three Waters, it does give some hope in an election year that there is fight still in local government, which in recent times has felt not listened to. As mentioned, rates has been and is another area of considerable focus, from a rate indication of the high teens to 11.3 to a current indication of 8.4% average rates increase for the 23-24 year is high relative to our history. Anecdotal evidence suggests that around 40% of councils around New Zealand are sitting above 10% rate increase at this stage. Factors such as high inflation, higher interest rates, a rate rise below inflation last year, supply chain issues and a range of other factors have put unprecedented pressure on us this year. Our first 150 days is due on about the 8th of March, according to Google Calculator, and I'm satisfied that the action plan that was promised is largely coming together. I will report on that in the next council meeting and in other forums. So it's certainly been a busy time for us all, and I thank you, the elected members. David Langford, our Chief Executive, is doing a great job, and your executive team and council officers. It's I see a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes, and there are a lot of people working really hard, doing some great work, so thank you to everyone. Nā reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Great. So, next item, we have some guests, I think, are outside. Oh, sorry, that's right. Yes, I knew you have to remind me. Yeah, so sorry, Helen, Deputy Mayor Helen was going to say something.
Please. Thank you. I've just been to a briefing on the census. We are having a census in 2023, and we all know as councillors how important that is, because so much money comes into Whanganui via government funding, whether it's to our hospitals or our tertiary institutions or our schools, etc., based on the census. Absolutely critical. The 2018 census didn't gather all the data it needed to, and our hospital and other social services have really missed out as well. And we need everybody to fill out their census, and I know all of you will, but there's that big push for our community. Because if we capture all the data, then we are going to be better off in our future planning, but also all of our community services will be better off, including a hospital. So I have a free giveaway bottle here to the councillor who puts up their hand, and I will ask them to tell me the date. What is the date, census date? Who can tell me? Put up your hand. Wow.
I think Charlie.
Incorrect. Does anybody know? Wow. So I didn't know either. It's the 7th of March. 7th? No, you said the... He did not.
You don't want a pink bottle anyway, Charlie.
Charlie, you're doing a pink, he wants to do it. So yeah, 7th of March, it's coming out really close. So look for everybody, please listening, look for the packs in your mailbox. And it's back to the good old-fashioned census where you can fill it out physically or you can do it online. And there are actually going to be people knocking on doors this time just to check if you've done it or not. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Helen. And I've also been in touch with Nicole Dryden. I should know, I went blank there. So I know Nicole pretty well and have invited her to come and speak to us about the census. It's really important for us to have this information locally in Whanganui, so we know who's who, what's going on. It's really, really an important part of our decision making going forward. So thanks, Helen. Great. So we are now moving to the next agenda item, the public agenda. So we have a petition which has been signed by a group of residents, and we have Julie and Ben Nyssen on the matter of a bus stop in Kings Avenue, who are here to present to us. I'm just going to go and greet them, if that's all right. Well, welcome and thank you for taking the time out to come and see us today, and also for all the effort that you've gone to signing the or getting the petition signed. I'm conscious that it's quite daunting coming into this room. So, so basically, we've been at a council meeting today. Do you want to quickly go? We'll quickly go around the table and just introduce so you know who all the councillors are. Are the names in front? Yep. Yeah. All right. All right. Anyway, so obviously you can see our names. So, but either way, welcome here, and And as I said, I applaud what you guys have done to, this is democracy in action. So we've got a paper later on which we will discuss and debate this from a Whanganui District Council perspective. But in the meantime, I understand you've got 5 minutes each to present to us, and so the microphone is yours. Oh, it's just the button on just the right. Yeah.
Mayor and Whanganui Council members, good morning and happy Valentine's Day. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to discuss our petition to remove the Kings and Swiss Ave section from the new bus service and replace it with the existing Bignell Street route. I assume that you would be aware of the communication and meetings that have occurred between the Whanganui District and Regional Council and independent persons such as David Lane and Anthony Tonnen, and I have been the lead spokesperson. It has been an intense and stressful process which has eventually led to this petition being presented for your consideration today. Julie and I would like to focus on the key points for you to consider in reaching a decision on this matter.
The unreasonable notification time to residents. The timing from both councils informing the residents of King Swiss Avenue about Whanganui's new bus service was most unreasonable. Only 3 days before the Christmas closure of the District and Regional Council, we and our neighbour next door and opposite to us received a letter from David Lane detailing the installation of a bus stop on our properties for the new bus service. This was a very stressful moment for us, especially before Christmas, because our properties were going to be dramatically changed and without any prior acknowledgement. We had some major problems with this new bus stop, such as curbside parking, potential noise and diesel pollution directly outside our bedroom window and living room, our 2 dogs disturbance of persons intending to use the bus stop, and the frequency of 20-minute intervals of 2 buses every week, continuing until 11 p.m. on Friday nights. Moreover, this dramatic change was going to happen in 2 months' time. Considering that this new bus service project at least started 9 months ago, why did we not receive this letter much earlier? Given the fact that we are discussing this matter today, again only days before the new bus service begins this Saturday, the 18th of February, is another indication of the indiscriminate, unfair and inconsiderate handling of this project. In our opinion, both councils' timing was not properly managed in informing us of what we consider to be dramatic and unhelpful changes to our properties as well as our lifestyle. Rationale for the new service. The research undertaken for this new bus service for the residents of King Swiss Avenue is also questionable and seemingly without foundation. We have ascertained that no other resident, apart from us, have been informed about the new bus route which affects our street. Furthermore, there has been no demand for such a bus stop from the residents either. Why was there no official survey conducted by both councils as to whether anyone in our street wanted to have a 3rd bus stop outside our property, which is only 150 metres from the existing bus shelter for the Bignell bus route? Please refer to the map. We believe this 3rd bus stop on our street is unnecessary given that there is no demand for it. Certainly 9 months would have provided sufficient time to inform the residents affected by the new bus route and enable resident feedback to the councils. All the residents who signed the petition stated clearly that they have no intention to use the new bus service. The council's belief, expectation that more frequent bus service will attract greater use was ruled out by the King Swiss Avenue residents. The residents were also most unhappy with the frequency of 420 buses using our street every week. The response from most of the residents was, it is completely over the top. Some residents have moved from the cities to escape the travelling buses as they prefer a quieter neighbourhood like King Swiss Avenue. Moreover, further justification against the introduction of a new bus stop is the fact that residents already have the option to take a bus using the existing Bignell Street, which we continue to encourage the Regional Council to replace our street section with. Evidently, there is only a 2-minute difference between the proposed King Swiss route and the Bignor route. We consider this 2 minute of extra time, as agreed by all the residents, to be insignificant for the sake of our happiness in our neighbourhood. Of note, we discovered other councils such as Otago, Queenstown, Dunedin and Christchurch are also introducing new bus services. These councils and residents need to be working together and trying to resolve similar issues. Shouldn't our councils and residents do the same? Seemingly, there has been a lack of research and correspondence conducted by our councils relative to the needs of the individual areas of Whanganui for this new bus service. We believe the residents of King Swiss Avenue have been disregarded in this new bus service project. Even if the District Council decides to not install a bus stop in front of our property, the Regional Council still intends to use our street as a thoroughfare, regardless of our petition. As last stated by the officers of the Regional Council, the new bus service will commence this Saturday the 18th and will run as planned. As most of you know, we have requested a number of times for the Regional Council to replace our street section with the existing Bignor route. Therefore, the residents of King Swiss Avenue need the support from the Mayor and all the councillors, from the Mayor and all the councillors to intervene on our behalf to the Regional Council and to support our petition, which is to remove the King Swiss Avenue street from the new bus service before it commences this Saturday, the 18th of February, and replace it with the existing Bignor route. Again, this is our strong recommendation to the council members.
Congestion and hazardous. The introduction of this service has the potential to create traffic congestion, as well as creating more hazardous driving conditions, and adds another concern to the residents. If the research had been conducted more thoroughly, the residents would show that Kings and Swiss Avenue is a much narrower street than compared to Bignor Street. In fact, our street is 8.5 metres wide compared to Bignor's, which is 11.5 metres. The existing Bignor Street route shows that coming off Tawa Street, which is a very wide street, narrows off significantly into Kings Ave. Again, the research would show a significant difference in the width of the road, which the narrower the width, the more congestion build up and increase the potential for accidents, especially when vehicles are trying to pass buses. Furthermore, our road has a very high amount of curbside parking. In fact, most of our street has at least 2 to 4 cars parked on the road. Our curbside shares at least 4 cars with our neighbours at the front and back. Better research of our street would have concluded this through observations taken at different times of the day. As per the council's letter stating that the demand for curbside parking in our street is very low, is incorrect. Therefore, with 2 buses travelling every 20 minutes, increasing congestion and reducing visibility due to a narrow street may potentially cause an accident. For example, vehicles passing the buses and, more importantly, our children crossing the roads. Our street over time has had numerous car accidents, of which one has been fatal in the time that we have lived there, which is 12 years. At one section of our road, there is a blind spot which a young woman was killed. Many road cones due to roadworks around the same area have been hit by cars travelling along the same section. I recently witnessed a car hitting our neighbour's fence across the road, coming from the same tight corner section. Notably, this neighbour across the road is where the council wants to put the other proposed bus stop. One of the residents commented that they would not let their children stand at this proposed bus stop because they, quote, may be killed, unquote. Again, the lack of correspondence and research between council and the residents is evident. The alternative option is not viable. In response to our petition, David Lane designed an alternate bus stop at 53B Kings Ave, which is adjacent to our property. The resident who will be affected by this alternate bus stop does not want it either. Unfortunately, she suffers from a condition known as chronic fatigue syndrome. This resident recently moved here for a quieter neighbourhood where she needs to rest most of the day, but became very stressed at the thought of a bus stop outside her new home, running at 20-minute intervals. Therefore, the residents of Kings Ave and Swiss Ave also reject the alternate bus stop, nor do they want to be part of a 15-month trial either, in summary. In conclusion, the residents of Kings and Swiss Ave have not been happy with the decision of both councils to use our street without correspondence and consent in Whanganui's new bus service. Considering that this bus service project has been planned for at least 9 months ago, we strongly believe that the timing, the correspondence and research undertaken to go ahead with this initiative has been poorly thought through, especially with the bus city frequency concept in a residential area, not to mention the congestion and safety concerns. Again, and importantly, we need unity in our community, and this petition is a result that reflects that something has not been unified in the management of this project to introduce this new bus service. Both councils can make it better for us, and that is to remove Kings and Swiss Ave from the new bus route and replace it with the existing Bignell route. Finally, should you have any issues that you may need some clarification, I will do my best to answer these for you. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you. That was a very compelling presentation. So, yeah, appreciate that.
Thanks.
Yeah. So the process now is we're just going to just go around. We've obviously got a paper coming up soon specifically on this, but I did invite elected members if you've got any questions for the Nysens now. Councillor Kate. Oh, hang on. So.
Thank you. Some really good information. Can I just ask a question about the width of Bignell Street? Is it 11, did you look at both ends of it? Like that it's 11.5 metres wide at both ends? Or
The main section of Bignell Street, which is the existing bus route, is a uniform width for almost the entire length.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Philippa.
Yeah, thanks, Ben and Julie, very much for your petition. 2 questions. I mean, I think you've spoken to them, but just to get real clarity. And one, in the paper we are going to consider, you talk about the option and the issues on intersection. So you're talking about, I think council's just got put, and I'm struggling to read it a bit myself, but as a possible alternate location on the intersection of Cambridge Street. So am I hearing you right, you do not support that, and could you just say why, briefly again? An alternate location as in the corner of Cambridge Street, from what I understand in the paper we've got.
That's 53B.
Oh, the alternate location, which is adjacent to our property.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. We don't support the alternate location because we don't support the bus route onto Kings Ave. As was the reason for the petition.
Yeah, because of all the other reasons. Yeah, okay. And would you consider supporting a trial in Swiss Ave, Kings Ave, with no infrastructure change from this Saturday?
No.
No, you know what I'm saying. No bus stop put there. We've just got to get some
want to be the same.
No, we'd like the new bus service to continue on
Yes.
with the existing Castlecliff bus route that is to travel down Abbott Street, past the Swiss Ave Junction, and then turning into Bignell Street.
Thank you.
Which in itself it adds approximately 2 minutes to the proposed bus route.
Thank you. Great. Councillor Rob.
Thank you, Ben and Julie. Just when you received this letter from Horizons, did it present this as a fait accompli, or did it give you a time for you to discuss with them your views, or some sort of consultation period?
No, it didn't mention a consultation period. It did mention to contact the writer should we have any concerns.
Can I just point it out? So that's incorrect. The letter was actually from, I've got it here, from the Whanganui District Council. We weren't told
The 3
anything
days
about it.
before Christmas.
3 days before, and it was from David Lane, who we thought, and at the end it said the Alliance, we realised, and we spoke to a few people, but it was actually from here. The letter had the letterhead, I've got it here. I think I may have emailed a few people, but we didn't know the Horizons was involved particularly with this particular installation. And no, it was basically to say that this is going to happen on the 18th of February.
Can we have some clarity of why this came from the Whanganui District Council, please, at some stage?
So normally this time's reserved for questions for the deputation. We do have a report coming up on it, but for clarity, because I think it is helpful, the authority that determines the bus route is the Horizons Regional Council. They then request for Whanganui District Council as the roading authority to provide bus stops. So the letter came from us because we've started the process around installing the bus stop, and there's two issues at play here, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. So what contact did you have from Horizons about the route change?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No. And as we had spoken to a number of councillors about the timing issue of David Lane's letter, is that we responded the same day. And he, like I said, we didn't receive anything. It was Friday. We left messages, we had emails, we knew the council was closing. We just wanted to get in and just hopefully speak to him about this, but he was not contactable.
Do you know if Horizons contacted any other residents in your street about that route change?
No, because I was the person.
Or in the area?
I was the person who, as soon as this happened, Ben and I had this thing. We said, well, if people have demanded it, maybe the old people or whatever reason, people have ticked the box, we didn't know. I thought to myself, best to go out and just find out, because otherwise we won't have any support and it's going to happen. So I went, and as I said, I visited over 50 people, and the first question I asked is, did you receive the Whanganui District Council letter? And I showed them. They said no.
If the residents of Kings Head were fully supportive of the new bus service to travel through Kings Ave, we wouldn't be here today.
No, not at all.
And Horizons, the Horizons District Council website and the Whanganui District Council website also state that I think it's SIL Research Limited, which is somewhere over in Napier, conducted a survey to see the needs of the bus services in Whanganui. And considering Whanganui, considering Kings Head wasn't part of an existing bus route, we believe that we should have been contacted. The residents of Kings Head should have been contacted and notified that this was the proposed bus service.
Thank you.
Right, Councillor Michael, you have a question?
Kia ora. Great feedback from the 43 members on here. Obviously, there's some duplications. I'm trying to quickly calculate the around 50 houses that are in that area. It looks like the vast majority have signed. Was there any opposing feedback that said, no, I really don't want to walk an extra 250 metres to the other bus stop? Or
Not at all.
no?
And that was my second question. So the first one is hi, I'm a resident of 51. Did you receive the council letter to let you know that we're part of the new bus service? Explain the whole frequency concept. Second, do you intend to use it? Because that was the reason why we went out. Every single person, old, young, families, all responded no.
So from your point of view, it looks like 90% of the residents in this section are opposed to the idea.
Yes.
It's clear. Thank you.
Councillor Charlie.
Thank you. Just on the subject of the petition, would you have had other people who object to it, but not necessarily sign the petition? Like you've got 30.
There was one gentleman, and I must admit I'm glad that was brought up. He's retired, and he told me that he understands where we're coming from, but he said it won't work. He said that I will not sign the petition but in 15 months' time, you'll have empty buses running along this street. He said, don't worry about it. It will be cancelled out. And the thing about is we're not prepared to take, like I said, all for the given reasons that we've presented here, we do not want to be part of this 15-month trial.
So one more question. Do you know whether the people on Bignell Street, Abbott Street, they want the bus route to continue there or they don't want it there? Do you know the answer to that?
No, we didn't do any investigation there, but as we said, if the research would have, there may be people who use it, and now they have to actually walk down, because there's one right in the centre of Bignell Street, and it's been operating for years.
Looks like there's 4 bus stops there instead of just the one in Kings Ave. Thank you.
So in taking that, apparently the existing one will continue for a different service. Is that correct, Ben?
I think my understanding is that the existing Castlecliff to town bus route will continue. So
On the Bignell Street.
On the 2 hour,
this is a new bus service with a new route.
Okay. So not replacing.
No, not replacing the Castlecliff bus service.
However, on that thought, wouldn't it be good if those people there could now use this high frequency, and you may have those people supporting it, considering that they may be existing to use it. So, like, we want to just replace our section, put it in there, and have those intervals that those people may have benefit. So this is something that David Lane, Whanganui District Council, or Horizons could actually put a survey to say, and that would achieve the goal of this new bus service from that perspective, but keep us free from reasons why we don't want to have.
But I've a final question from Councillor Ross and keep it Julie being very articulate, clear is not to me a concern. You are aware of people using buses and less car use. You say 420 times a bus is going to come down your street where it never did before. My jaw dropped. I can acknowledge that, but my question would be, acknowledging work that you've done, which is extensive and comprehensive, I'm curious, how will you communicate, perhaps even today's meeting, with those people on the petition? How do you get together or update them?
Okay, so I did a follow-up. I wrote a letter, and I spoke to them, and it happened to be on the public holiday, which made it great because everyone was home. So every single person because I told them that once we put this petition through, I will follow it up. We'll set a date, hopefully, if the council will allow us to talk. And so, and I will be following up with them. So I will go to each individual person who supports this in order for us to show that this is what we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to sit where you sit. I know how it feels. Well done. Right. Okay. All right. Look, that was great context. So we went a bit longer because it will help us with our decision later on. But thank you, Ben and Julie, very much for coming along.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I was going to say this is a public, so you can stay around if you want to.
Well, it's Valentine's Day. We're going out for a date.
You can hold hands in this room if you want to as well.
If it means, Philippa, if we are to wait and you're finishing to speak with you personally, or anyone who wants to speak to us personally, we're happy to wait because.
No, we've got a formal meeting in place, but we've got the next item not far away is this meeting.
Oh, you're going to make a decision? Oh no, Ben, they're going to make a decision on this.
No, you're going to continue with the campaign.
Why not?
We're going to discuss the matter.
Yes, can we? No, please, can we just? Oh, no, but you need to. Okay, thank you.
Right, okay. Next, what's it? Okay. So I'm just going to put the motion that the council receives the petition from Julie and Ben Nyssen on the matter of a bus stop on Kings Avenue. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Philippa, thank you. All right. Motions. Those in favour? Against? Okay, carried. All right. Moving to the next item is confirmation of minutes. I move that the minutes of 15 November 2022 and 20 December 2022 are moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Charlie. All those in favour? Against? Carried. So we move to, I think it's page 44 of the agenda, which is reports to council. Item 9.1, Castlecliff to Aramoho bus service, bus stop Kings Avenue. Invite David Lane to present to this item. Welcome, David. You've obviously heard a bit of feedback from the
Yes. Good morning, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'll keep my introductory comments very brief. I think it is a very simple matter that's before the committee to decide today, and that's whether or not we install a bus stop in Kings Ave for the proposed trial. I don't really feel it's my place to get into the debate about the choice of the route that has come. I was presented with a finalised route and asked to consult on new stops that were proposed with that route, and that was the process that I undertook in December. Kings Ave wasn't the only street that was consulted. There were a number of others around the city where new stops were proposed. Some of those were unopposed and have been implemented. Others have been placed on hold pending further investigations, including exploring options for other potential sites within the street or in neighbouring streets. Perhaps the one comment I would make with regard to the route selection, it's fair to say that we didn't consult directly with Kings Ave residents with regard to the choice of the street for the route, but nor did we consult with residents from the neighbouring streets, including Bignell Street, which, if we had stuck with the existing route, I'd be reasonably confident to say that any street that I went down and asked all the residents for an opinion, we would get a fair mix and not overwhelming support, if you like, for the new service. We are very much aware that we operate in a field where that car use is the dominant mode of transport used by probably 80% of residents of the city, and so it's not surprising that decisions are often skewed by car-centred thinking. So this whole process that we're undertaking with the proposed trial is to follow the government's stated intention to reduce reliance on private motoring and to increase the use of passenger transport and other modes of transport. And I think that's at the centre of why this trial has been funded by the government and is underway. So dealing with the question of the bus stop, I've provided for your information a possible alternate location. I did note the Nissens' comments when I spoke to them about the demand for on-street parking and also the concerns about carriageway width. So what I have attempted to do is to come up with an option as an alternate that addressed both the carriageway width issue and minimising the impact on car parking. So the choice, in my view, is relatively simple. If we are to install a new bus stop in the Kings Ave area, which would provide a stopping place for bus services, that may be a model that would be acceptable to the community. However, I also expect that if a decision was to not install a stop, there would be a relatively short walk to other stops. The only comment I would make in respect of that is we do know from evidence that the further households are away from a bus stop, the lower the likelihood that residents will make use of that service. So effectively, once a walk is more than 400 metres, it's very unlikely that residents will consider using bus services as an alternate to motoring, which is one of the reasons why we do try to get well-placed stops that will provide the service to the community. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, right. So, yes, I do invite any questions from around the table. We've got a number have come up. Councillor Charlie.
Yeah, thank you. You said that if you did do a survey on the streets, you'd probably get a mix of some for and against the service.
Yes. I think perhaps a slightly different mix if we consulted Bignell Street, because many of the residents there would be used to bus services being.
So in the case of Kings Ave, with the majority, overwhelming majority are against it, wouldn't that affect your decision?
Well, the purpose that I undertook with the consultation in December related solely to the bus stop. The decision, community consultation undertaken by Horizons, happened last year when they consulted on their passenger transport plan. Now, I fully accept that when consulting at a high level with a passenger transport plan, it would escape the notice of many residents, and it would never get down to the detail of a letterbox drop to every potentially affected resident. Whether that's an error in the system or not remains to be seen. The bottom line is the community has had the opportunity to comment on the passenger transport plan. Those comments have been considered and adopted, and what flowed was the request for new stops to be installed. So it has been through the process.
Pause you there for a moment. I was going to pass over to David Langford. David has got some additional information.
Not so much information, but just before we get too much into the questioning, urge elected members to remember that the matter at hand is around the installation of a bus stop. And if you want to have a bus stop, where does it go? Because that is the only jurisdiction that this council has. So whilst it may be tempting to get into questioning our officer about the choice of route and the consultation process, that is a process that was run by Horizons Regional Council, and they are the decision makers on that matter, not us. We have already heard the Nissens' plea for us to intervene on their behalf, and we have passed on their petition to Horizons Regional Council and advocated for them to take another look at it. But that is the limits of what we as a council can achieve. So please, if you can, keep it to the matter that's in the report, which is, do we install a bus stop, yes or no? And if yes, at which location?
So we're talking about bus stop, not the route. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Michael.
And with respect, obviously, this was given to us as opposed to us having discussions with this, so I understand that. You mentioned 400 metres between a bus stop. Looks like between the two bus stops is 250 metres, so we're quite good there. However, is there any capacity or capacity overloading issues on those two bus stops, one on Swiss Ave and one at the end of Kings Avenue?
I very much doubt it. If I could just comment on the location for the stop, I think it's not just the fact that the distance from the nearest stop, but the placement of a stop in Kings Ave was opening it up to a new catchment of Cambridge Street. And so it's not just solely the residents of Kings Ave that stop is providing a service for, but a broader catchment.
That makes sense. Thank you for that.
Councillor Rob.
Yes. So, David, if you had a broader catchment of Kings Avenue, as you've said, wouldn't you have a lower catchment off the Bignell Street side when you're taking the bus away from that street? So one seems to cancel the other out. Is that right?
Well, possibly. I mean, Bignell Street will still be served by the suburban buses, So it would be reduced to the number of bus passengers who wish to perhaps catch a bus to Aramoho, the direct service, for which they would have to go to King's Ave or Palmer Street to do that. So it would depend on their destination. It wouldn't affect all the passengers. If they wanted to access the more frequent service, it might involve a longer walk for Bignell Street residents.
Councillor Kate?
Thank you. Thanks, David, for your report and presentation today. I'm a bit stuck on this. It's not a motion, it's a fact, and that's about the width of the roads. 11.5 in Bignell Street and 8.5 in Kings Ave. You know, I've used to live in Gonville and walk those streets, and I know how wide Bignell Street is, so I thought it would be a far superior route for a bus to be travelling up and down. Do you have a view on that? And look, I just want to highlight too, I guess, that blind corner, because it can be a blind corner.
Yeah, we're very much aware of the geometry, and personally, I didn't feel the King's Ave site that was initially selected was the best choice, and it was through those on-site examinations that I identified this other potential option. So, yes, carriageway width is a consideration. Having said that, there are other streets on which buses travel in Whanganui currently where that road width and geometry factor. Buses travel down Oakland Ave, for example, and that has 25 km/h corners. It has a very narrow carriageway, but it's simply the only connecting route that is available. And so buses can travel quite safely in the same. We have trucks doing rubbish collection services and deliveries in those areas quite happily in these narrow carriageways. So it's not an insurmountable problem, the carriageway width.
I absolutely accept what you're saying. However, in your professional opinion, given a choice of a wider carriage route, how would you weigh that up against a 2-minute difference in the bus service?
Generally, we would go for the wider carriageway if we could. Having said that, in this case, they've opted for the more direct route, and so it really is a choice of which option is best, and in this case, the decision on the route has been based on the most direct route.
Right, and I appreciate that that's not your decision.
No, and that decision, I understand, was as laid out in the report. It relates to the frequency of the service and the desire to have it by the most direct route possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's just a reminder, we're talking about the bus stop, not the route here. So, Councillor Helen.
Thank you, David. I'm a visual understander of things, and I've only got one map here, and it's showing me, I presume, from what I understand, the route that, after discussions with the residents, you're proposing as the option for the bus stops. So what I'm understanding, there was original bus stop proposed somewhere along this route. The residents weren't happy, so you've come up with this alternative, and that's the only one I can see. I think that's what I'm understanding. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And I can't see on a map where any other of the bus stops are, so I'm struggling to really understand the impact if I vote no for any bus stops put here. And I'm presuming I get it that people are going to have to work further. I just don't understand what. And then, so I'm struggling with that. And if we say no, is that no, both of those bus stops I see in that picture? Is that what I'm talking about, on either side of the road? Or are we only, if we say no, is that just to one side? I don't get it. Thank you.
Okay. Firstly, if you look at the picture that is in the report with the two proposed bus stops, to the right of the picture there's a white car that is parked. That car is parked against the curb. Now, the intention was that there would be a bus stop just a little bit behind where that car is positioned.
Okay.
That's the point at which the carriageway narrows.
Yep.
At this intersection, they've widened the carriageway. And so the proposal seeks to use that wider section of carriageway because it allows the bus to pull wholly out of the traffic stream to allow passengers to board. On the opposite side, the intention is to construct a similar lay-by that could be used exclusively for buses. So this option moves away from the original intended option, which was in the narrower part of the road, where the curb is outside the grass berm and narrows the carriageway significantly.
Okay, thank you. So I guess the advantage obviously is gets the bus of the new proposal gets the buses off the main carriageway, so that should be better. The disadvantage, you've got one road coming out into Kings Avenue opposite that one of those bus stops. So there's a little bit more traffic confusion. But the buses generally would come in, they would park. There'd be probably quite a quick exit and entry of people, because you're not looking at 10 people getting on a bus in these areas, right?
No,
Maybe.
typically 30 seconds duration, the bus is stopped. Simply enough time for people to get on or off.
Yeah. And so it is going to have, the drivers, anybody driving, it's a fairly short interruption of their journey to take care of the buses.
Yes.
But it's,
Yes.
there
And
is...
of course, not all buses stop.
Of course, if there's nothing to stop for, you're not stopping.
Exactly.
Of course. And all the buses, this is a totally separate thing, but the buses are diesel buses, I think, so there's a noise factor that will be annoying for residents. They're not electric. I don't think Horizons have got that in their budget, unfortunately.
Not yet, but yes, they are diesel buses.
Yeah. I think that's all my questions. Thank you very much, David.
No, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for your comments this morning. I just have one question. I know we had two options before us, support it or decline it. I heard you refer to a statement that people may not walk more than 400 metres to a bus stop. That intrigues me. Where does that kind of measurement come from?
I guess it's in the evidence that's been presented over the years and from transport studies, but generally there is resistance to walking long distances, and it affects both car users and passenger transport users that the availability of car parking is often one that is cited as to how far people are willing to walk in order to access, for example, free parking. And it's similar for buses, that it really becomes a quality measure for people. That's all I'm simply saying is the further you get away from a bus stop, the less likely residents are to use it. And that is what the evidence suggests.
So this question might not be correct, but those people who are currently using the Bignell Street bus stops, or those who want to access bus stops on that route, that's an extra 2 minutes for that rapid bus stop to walk to get the rapid bus stop into Bignell Street. To me, is not a stretch, but what you're saying is by metres, it's a stretch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, to some users it would be perfectly acceptable, to others. All I'm saying is that the likelihood decreases as the distance increases. So the likelihood that people will access that service. And fundamentally, I think what we have to remember in this type of transport planning is that we're trying to dissuade people from using private cars and using other modes of transport. And it comes down to the attractiveness of the service.
Okay. And my last question is, I may have misread my information. If this is a trial, and it's a trial that seems to have a lot of complications with it, my reading says that there's some advantages to it, but they would have to create stop on the eastern side will involve new construction. And I read that paragraph and I thought, well, if this is a trial, why would there be construction going on? To me, a trial is a little stand and you take it away when you're finished. If there's to be construction, then surely it's not a trial.
That is a valid point. However, if the investment were made in the bus stop and the buses ceased to travel along that route, the fact is that could revert to a car parking space, so it would be a permanent asset for the city. The other thing is there is already an existing school bus route along this section of Kings Ave, and that could make use of this stopping place.
Thank you.
I just want to point out that there's been a proposal for an alternative motion proposed by Councillor Philippa and Councillor Rob, and I'm just thinking it might be worthwhile putting this on the table now because it might help our discussion. So I think Anna's so that the council requests Horizons District Council to retain the current Abbott Street to Bignell Street carriageway for the new Castlecliff to Aramoho Tide service due to start Saturday 18th of February 2023. It's been moved by Councillor Philippa, seconded by Councillor Rob. So then there'll be a second part to this, which is that the council, I think, don't install a bus stop in Kings Avenue as illustrated in reference 1 attached. Right. Okay. And okay, second. Okay. Any comments? Right.
It's been moved and seconded.
So,
Questions?
okay, it's questions, is it? Right. So it's questions. Oh. Okay, so questions to the new motion. Right, who are we? We've got Councillor Helen.
Thank you. Are we allowed to ask a question of anybody else, or is it only David Lane in terms of, I see that we have some transport representatives here from the Transport Committee, or direct it to you? David, thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, so, yeah, thank you. So to David. So we haven't had a report from officers on the merits of one route to the other, although we've had some evidence. We actually haven't had an officer's report. Therefore, is it appropriate for us to take this motion to Horizons without actually knowing why they actually chose this route at this time? Is that, is this appropriate for good decision making?
Look, I'm gonna answer that probably first with just a little bit of context and background, and then I'll give you a direct answer. So first of all, I think it's important to remember that this new bus trial has been quite a long time in the making. It's come through the regional transport plans. This council has advocated for the high frequency routes, effectively fought pretty hard to get something that is dedicated or Whanganui focused for our city, to the point where you actually in this annual plan chose made the decision to put additional funding in over and above what the Horizons Regional Council is supposed to do in order to promote and advertise this route and try and make the trial as successful as possible. So that's your context as to where this has come from. I'll repeat my comments before. The decision on what the route is itself sits with the Horizons Regional Council. It's their jurisdiction, their decision-making and consultation processes that have been through, and we're very much the last person to touch this in terms of placing the bus stops at the locations that we've been requested to by the Horizons Regional Council. All of that said, though, if the bus route goes down one street or the other, as has already been debated and discussed, the impact on the route itself is relatively negligible in terms of the travel time of the buses. So one way or the other, this doesn't fatally compromise the bus service that we've all fought really hard to achieve, whether it goes down King's Ave or remains on the current one. So in that respect, I have a great deal of comfort that you are asking the Horizons Regional Council to reconsider a decision it's made about a minor detail on the overall project, and I have no problem with the resolution as it's been proposed. The reason that I prompted you to put the second part in is if you want to go and ask this question as officers, we need also a decision on yes, no, do you want a bus stop? The obvious complementary answer to that, given the resolution on the table, is no, not at this time, because we might want to rethink it, or you want Horizons to rethink this matter.
Thank you.
Hopefully that helps.
Yes, it does. And if we were to vote for no bus stop at the site as proposed at this time, it could always come back to the table, couldn't it? It's just right now we're saying don't go ahead with the new construction, don't put some signs up and the buses can't stop there, but we could revisit that.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And the implications to the timetable, if we say right now, no bus stop there, what are the implications for all the work that's gone on with timetable and actually people on the routes? It's already gone, I'm presuming it's already gone out there.
It is.
You know, the buses are stopping here and people are starting to plan. I don't know if there's printed material or it's all online. What are the implications for that?
Look, I think that's a matter for Horizons to really consider. Anthony, if I don't mind putting you on the spot, if you wouldn't mind, if you've got a comment, that would be great.
Hi everyone.
Hi,
and thanks very much to Julie and have been on this. Yeah, I can speak to the timetables. So the timetables have been printed. And they've been sent out. So this would require some complex changes to the timetable. It would mean that we'd need to get new timetables printed. It would mean that we would need to update the data that's sent online to make sure that the app tells you the right time that the bus is going to arrive at each stop all along the route. So certainly it would be better if there was a little bit of time allowed for that sort of thing to happen after the trial starts, so that you could have a new set of timetables with a new route and perfectly accurate online information.
Thank you. So through the CEO again, if I mean, obviously the bus stop on the new bus stop that's got to be constructed, the clearing, that hasn't happened yet. So clearly at the moment the bus is going to stop on the street. If we go, since this all goes ahead, the bus stop is going to have to get put in pretty quick because it's only a couple of days before it starts. So you're going to have to put a pole up or something, I guess, and we can't construct, and nobody can construct that lay-by immediately. So I'm guessing at the moment the bus will just stop on the road.
No. So there will be no bus stop when this starts.
Okay.
Yeah, it would. The decision has been to delay this for meetings with the relevant
So even on
councils.
both sides, because there's no infrastructure put up. So at this stage, the bus is not going to stop there anyway when the...
That's right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And when, if it was to go ahead, let's say we voted, yeah, go ahead and do this, how long is it before that bus would stop there? How long before that infrastructure's in place, David, do you know?
It might be red rag to a bull, but we could put a temporary bus stop further down the road until the construction is completed. So that is always an option. I mean, we have curb space available. It's a simple matter of installing a sign. The construction, I imagine that we just need to make sure we've got a completed design and check for underground services and so forth. So there is some process to it. There's probably 2 months is a reasonable time frame.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Anthony.
Okay, I'm conscious that we've spent a fair bit of time on this. I don't want to rush it through, but we do need to crack on. But so I'm not going to accept any more questions at this stage, except for the ones that are on the screen. So we've got Councillor Charlie.
I'm always
Charlie, I
brief.
saw you panicking there.
I'm always brief. Just regarding these recommendations, is the bottom one necessary? Because that's a given that that service is going to continue, isn't it?
So the difference is...
Who am I asking?
That's to
Probably to Mayor Andrew. The question was directed to probably to you.
Sorry, I was just that Helen was in my ear, so I missed that.
Is that bottom recommendation needed because that Bignell Street route's still got to be retained, isn't it?
I guess it would be more accurate because this says the tide service. I do think this makes sense. It's true that there will still be buses on Abbott Street and Bignell Street, but they will be the existing 2-hourly Castlecliff to town service.
Okay. Councillor Ross.
Yeah, one question for you, and then I've got a question for my fellow councillors about the possible amendment. You said that at this stage, the timetables are printed, they've gone out, etc., etc. I get that administratively. But at this stage, until it's resolved by Horizons, the buses aren't going to stop there. So if I turn up at the bus stop with my timetable, the bus won't appear. So we already have that situation. Is that correct?
So the timetables don't list every single bus stop, and they won't. And then online is a little bit more malleable. So at this point, online isn't going to tell you to go to that stop. So the nearest stop that has a time given to it in our timetables would be, I have to go from memory, but it'd be either on Tower Street or that intersection of Tower Street and Kings.
Okay.
So what the printed timetable gives you is it gives you around 10 stops on this route, and it says what time it will be at those stops. So you do have to do a little bit of maths to say, oh, okay, so my stop's between those two, so I can assume that I should get there 5 minutes before I expect it to be near my stop.
So stating the obvious, the King's Ave one doesn't exist in any printed document. So the public wouldn't be aware of one. They'd be going to the ones that are printed. So at this stage, no one is aware of the King's Ave one, bar the people that are raising this today.
No, the only really major issue is that if the bus travels a new route on Saturday, it may put out it may make the times for some of the other stops inaccurate.
I mean, it's a faster service.
If we put it down Bignell Street, the service will go a little bit slower, and so it will be harder for the drivers who are professional drivers and will be driving slowly. It'll be harder for them to make the times.
Okay.
If not possible. There also need to be contract changes. It should be said as well that 2 minutes does make a difference over a period of time. It will increase the driver kilometres. And so Horizons will need to do some work with Transit, the bus operator, to get this change.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, sorry, could you indicate when I can now refer to that? the possible amendment that went up the top?
You can move it
That one, okay, it says, I'm being pedantic, but I think I'm right. The council does not install a bus stop in Kings Ave as illustrated in reference. So you're referring to the specific one that Ben and Julie are referring to outside their home and across the street. That's not quite what I was thinking. Based on what I'm hearing from Ben and Julie very clearly, no bus stop in Kings Ave. And so from my way of thinking, that refers specifically to their area of that street. Whereas I was thinking more wider, that council does not support a bus stop in Kings Ave at all at this time. And in that way, we're not then passing the buck to somebody further up the street who's going to get a bit of a shock. If we're either keen on a bus stop somewhere in Kings Ave other than Ben and Julie's area, or we're not at this time. And my view is based on what I'm hearing, and I could be wrong by the count, there shouldn't be one at this stage at all, even an alternative in Kings Ave. It's got more work to go.
Just as a point of clarification, there's one on Kings Ave as well, so that just need to come into that. There's an existing bus stop on Kings Ave on the corner of Kings
Sorry,
and
but I'm
Whanganui.
referring to the alternative.
Yeah.
We would not, because I don't know about the alternative specifically, but I don't think we should be ruling out one and then leaving out the alternative and mention.
Okay, no, thank you. I've just had a quick chat with David. So perhaps the words "at this time" need to be added. Yep, there you go.
So can I suggest some alternative wording, which is that
If they're in agreement, yeah.
that the council does not install a new bus stop on Kings Avenue at this time. Full stop.
And remove illustrated in reference.
I'm happy with that. I'm still happy.
Could I just mention that with respect to the second motion, it's Horizons Regional Council?
All right. Okay. And Councillor Charlotte, and I've got another one here from you. Right, okay. Well,
Classic.
right, so Councillor Charlotte, if you could just keep this
Yeah,
real
very
brief,
quick.
that's okay.
My question is just around the timeframe of the review. Is it possible that there could be a review on this earlier than 15 months?
I personally don't see why not, and Julie and Ben are going to travel to Horizons, I believe, on the 24th of February, where they'll be heard by Horizons councillors. I think it's not unreasonable to expect that naturally we would reprint timetables in a few months in any case. So I wouldn't see a reason why, reasonable time frame, there couldn't be a review that also didn't affect the smooth running of the service for the people that do use it.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'm not going to invite any further comments. I think we've had good enough discussion here. So I'll put the motion on the screen that the council does not install a new bus stop in Kings Ave at this time, and that the council requests Horizons Regional Council to retain the current Abbott Street to Bignell Street carriageway for the new Castlecliff to Aramoho tide service due to start Saturday 18th of February 2023. All those in... Right. Okay. Okay. So, okay, you want to do them separately? Okay. I thought we might do them together. So, okay, so I'll just, can I just adjourn for a moment, because this is new territory for me.
The motion. Could I just see both the motions, please?
Sorry, can I just... some of the enough. We're sitting back here. This is a great learning experience for me, going through these scenarios in real life. So thank you for your patience. We'll be more and more refined as we have more of these meetings. So back to item 9.1, the Castlecliff to Aramoho bus service. So I'm going to open up to comments on the motion. Councillor Philippa.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Councillors. Thank you to everyone that's spoken today. One, the petition, to this item. I'm going to try and be reasonably brief. I moved the resolution, the bottom one we're seeing, and of course I was very happy and very reasonable. Thank you to our CE for suggesting the second resolution. Look, I think there's no question, many of us, and it shows back in December 2021, I was on the previous council that supports this whole issue of high frequency bus services, trying to get people, trying to help people more to access our bus services, I guess affordability, obviously emissions, and all those other fantastic reasons. But of course, everything does come down to the devil's in the detail. And we have had one petition and one strong petition with some very good reasoning from them. And so for that purpose, I will be voting in support of the resolutions, but against the recommendation from officers to install a bus stop. And very briefly, I believe we've had a lack of reasonable consultation with possibly the whole bus service, but particularly with this changed route to Swiss and Kings Ave. We've had, I think there's been shown, in my view, a lack of evidence of support of the proposed new Swiss and Kings Ave service through the petition. And through, I guess, the reasoning given earlier in the petition by the Nysens. And I guess from what I've heard in the presentation, not enough evidence, I guess, to change from their alliance partners. I believe we've had a lack of explanation of the benefits of the new service. And it does seem that the current Bignell Street bus stop service seems very sufficient and can't see any particularly strong reason why it can't handle this new service. I've forgotten what it's called, but this new high frequency service. I think the urgency of this decision is very important, obviously with the service due to start this Saturday, 18th February, whether or not there is obviously not a new bus, not infrastructure in place, and whether or not it is actually going to run, which we weren't aware of. And also, although we heard about pamphlets, which I was going to say, it's a real shame because they've been printed, but it does seem that those pamphlets don't actually have this particular bus route on them. So I would ask for the support of councillors and the Mayor. I think for us to support these resolutions with not enough reasoning, very short consultation, and a strong petition to finish the petition. That's all I would say.
Great, thank you. Councillor Michael.
Kia ora. So understanding that it's not our decision or role to play in the decision making of the public transport in Whanganui. However, we have a choice that impacts 50 residential properties, of which the majority have come to us and said to us, no, we do not want this bus service and we don't want this bus stop. Those that are directly impacted by our decision should weigh heavily on our votes. This is the whole point of participatory democracy and direct democracy. Extending the catchment calculates around 20-30 different households that will be impacted. We do not have the information on those people wanting this bus stop or not. I will be I put declining, but we've got the opposite now. I will be supporting this motion to not install a bus stop in Kings Avenue at this time for the following reasons. We have 420 buses that will not be stopping and impacting the lives of those that have already told us they do not want it. There is no impact on the capacity of other bus stops that are 250 metres away. There are savings on creating the bus stop, and we are reducing the likelihood of injury and congestion on a small street. Lessons I'd like to take from this would be those that are impacted by our decision should be made fully aware and have information pending for us on decision making. I will not be supporting the second motion, however, because I do not have adequate information to make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jenny.
Thank you. Without repeating Councillor Michael's comments, the bus timetables have already been printed. We've heard that it doesn't have the bus stops on it. I think if the route remains temporarily even to be Kings Ave and Swiss Ave, it doesn't impact with regards to not having a bus stop, because there is a bus stop at either end of that stretch anyway. So I can support at this time the first resolution, but I can't support the second resolution. We do need to hear directly from Horizons Regional Council on what are the impacts of moving from King Swiss over to Bignell, and whether that's a financial one, whether it's a contractual one, or whatever the impacts are, that they're not in our sphere of control or knowledge, and we do need to hear that. And also we must remember that this is a catchment. So yes, there is Swiss Kings Ave, but it's a catchment area. And when we move to Bignell Street, we move the catchment area right away from the people over in Cambridge and Caius. That may be minimal, and they may be able to collect at either end of the route, you know, the Tower Kings connector area and the Abbott connector area. But I mean, I cannot support the second one until we have more information from Horizons. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Josh.
Thank you. I want to start by acknowledging Ben and Julie for bringing this petition to us and for their proactivity and engaging with the members of their community. Other than that, Councillor Duncan has essentially given my speech, and I don't have a hell of a lot to add to what she said, other than to say that in terms of the second recommendation, that I am a strong supporter of good, effective governance and decision making, and to do that, we do need to hear from Horizons. We can't make a decision of that nature, given the gap in information that we have today, and given how near we are to the starting date of this new service. We simply need more time before we endorse a recommendation of that nature. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Josh. So I'm conscious, according to standing orders, we've had 3 in favour of the motion. So I'm going to close it off there, given we've spent a fair bit of time on this, and ask for any contrary views to speak against the motion. Oh, so okay.
So they've spoken in favour of the first part, but against the second part.
Yeah, gosh, yes.
Still
Yeah.
close it off there. Call for contrary views, but move it to the vote.
Okay. So any contrary views anyway. So
So, Mr Mayor, I'd like to speak in favour of both the motions.
okay, right. Okay, well that's contrary to
It's all a bit upside down, isn't it? Look, I'm really happy to land where both of these recommendations are landing. I think we've had a good process, and I'm sure Horizons will push back if there's any good reasons why we should not, they should not change the carriageway from Kings Ave to Bignell Street. I just want to thank those that we've heard from today. I think Ben and Julie You've obviously felt strongly about this issue, but I'd like to thank you for your persistence and the very respectful way in which you've engaged with us. It's not always something we get from folks when they're pretty upset about something. So I'd really like to thank you for that. Anthony Tonnan, your advice is always appreciated, and really appreciate that. David, it feels a little, I'm thinking about mixing my metaphors, but it's a little bit like I think you got a hospital pass here, where it was put to you to implement these changes in a fairly short order. Because I think generally the discussion I've heard is that the consultation wasn't that flash, just in terms of times, but I think that's probably you with the meat and the sandwich, see, mixing my metaphors. So thank you very much for your report and your service to this issue.
All right, thanks. Councillor Rob.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Ben and Julie, for your presentation earlier. I sympathise with the Nysens and all the other residents in that street. It can't be. It's a bit of a daunting prospect to have 420 buses coming along your street every week when you never had them before, and to have a bus stop right outside your bedroom window, once again, is quite daunting. And I can quite understand why they are so concerned about this. What I'm particularly concerned about, though, is the consultation, the so-called consultation that appeared to go along with this trial. Now, last week, the Mayor, Councillor Charlie, and myself, who are the representatives on the Regional Transport Committee, the committee met in Whanganui. This issue was raised, and I came away from that meeting understanding that the only valid reason given for changing this route to Kings Ave was a potential 2-minute saving in time. No other reason has come forward, certainly at that Transport Committee meeting. And quite frankly, it doesn't seem a valid reason to me. So I think that the request on behalf of our constituents to the Horizons Regional Council to retain the existing route is a valid one, and I'll be supporting both of these. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Ross.
Yep. Once again, thank you to Ben and Julie for today. Awesome effort from local residents and Democracy in Action. I'm supporting the first motion, not the second one, for reasons other councillors have said they're a bit reluctant to support the second one.
Sorry, intervene here. We've already been through the pro and cons, so these are contrary views because we've already had 3 people speak in favour of the first one, but not in favour of the second one.
That's my statement.
Yep.
So my contrary is I'm not supporting the second one.
Yeah, we've already had that. We've already had 3 people.
Oh, I thought you were letting it go on.
No, only for the contrary views.
I'm sorry, I was being contrary. I apologise.
No, you're actually agreeing with the first 3. So, yeah.
I'm done.
All right, thank you. Councillor Charlie?
Yeah, I'm going to support both of these. What I don't understand, by not supporting the second one, what are we saying? Are we saying we don't want that service? I don't quite get it.
Okay, that's a clarification or a question, not a comment, but just
but it's an existing route, so what, are we saying we don't want it now? By voting against it, that's what you're doing.
Yep, so I'll pass over to David.
I support both of them.
Whilst we're normally past questions of clarification, given it's a fundamental understanding of the motion, I'll jump in on this one. The second part is saying that we want to advocate to the Horizons Regional Council that they retain the existing route and don't move it onto Kings Avenue. Does that help clear it up, Charlie? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for you guys.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I think we're empty on here anyway, so no further comments. So I'll put the motion on the screen in 2 parts. So we'll go to the first one, that the council does not install a new bus stop in Kings Ave at this time. All those in favour? Okay. Against? One. Okay. The motion's carried. That particular part one, if you like. So I'm going to read out the second motion, that the council requests Horizons Regional Council to retain the current Abbott Street to Bignell Street carriageway for the new Castlecliff to Aramoho tide service due to start on Saturday, 18th February 2023. All those in favour? I'm not going to vote just yet. I'm just going to.
You have to vote yes.
Okay. I have to. Okay. Right, okay. Fair call. So absorbed in it. So I'm going to vote that this one. I'm going to vote for that. Okay. Against?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 7.
Okay, motion's carried. 7 votes to 6. Right, that's that item. Thank you. Item 9.1 is now finished. So, yep. So Ben and Julie, that particular matter is we've now finished that particular item. So you can stay around if you want to, or go. But I just want to once again support everyone else's comments. Thank you very much. You've probably taken a half a day off work. I'm not sure, but really appreciate all the effort that you've been through this, and it's obviously still a matter that's at hand. So. Yeah. All right. So moving to item 9.2, appointment of independent member, Risk and Assurance Committee, February 2023. All right. So. Do we have?
So who was the mover and seconder?
Rob.
And
Well, any comments? Council, I've got a few comments. Councillor Kate.
Really happy to support Mike's continued appointment to this committee. He really adds value, worth having.
Right, thank you. Councillor Philippa.
Thank you. I mean, my question, please, if we're in my only question, and I was on the previous council and had no issues at all, but I may have missed it, but have we not got a CV, particularly for new members who may not know this member? I haven't seen it. Might show that I didn't read every inch of the agenda, but I would have expected for such an important committee that we might have a CV provided, because of Mr. Trimmer.
Yeah, he's not a new member, I understand. So
It's returning.
He's returning.
But we've got new councillors. A new council.
Okay. Yep, thank you.
So is the answer we haven't got a CV for nothing?
Yep, so I mean, the CV is one form of reference or advocacy, if you like. So I'm happy that
could we get
for those
sent that around?
I'm happy for it to be sent around if required, but overriding that, I'm happy with the recommendation from councillors, which seems to be unanimous. David?
Look, I'll jump on this from a management point of view. I think there's a fair piece of feedback. There are new elected members around the table that don't have the benefit of knowing the individual at question. So we'll take that on board as an improvement opportunity for future reports. So thank you.
Thank you, David.
His CV's on LinkedIn, though, if you want to look.
All right, Councillor Jenny.
Yeah, just picking up from Councillor Kate's comments. We've worked with Mr. Trimmer for, I don't know, 3 years. I don't know how many years it has been. Maybe it's 2.5. He's hugely experienced and contributes a great deal to the committee. So I have no concerns at all about if his CV is circulated, that you would be very happy with his reappointment.
Okay, Councillor Ross.
As a new councillor, I accept the material that's presented in the agenda today for the continuation. I didn't see a CV for Pahia Torea when that recommendation was made, and I accepted that at the stage. So I believe that what others say have proceeded before me are recommending to go forward. I support it.
Okay. Great. All right. So, look, we've had 3 comments in favour, so I'm just going to push this ahead. So I'm going to put the motion on the screen that the council appoints Michael Timmer as an independent member of the Risk and Assurance Committee for the 2022-2025 triennium. All those in favour? Aye. Okay. Against? Motion is carried. So moving to item 9.3, Interim Solutions for Homelessness. Invite Lauren Tamahana to speak, and I assume that means that you're off duty for civil defence. No.
No, still just keeping a watch on where we need to be at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to present this update for you today. The options presented today are to address the short-term needs of our homeless while we are working on longer-term options. As you're all aware, since COVID and the setup of the Homeless Hub at Anzac Parade, our freedom camping sites have become a popular option for the homeless. Over the last 12 months, I would have received at least 2 complaints a week. We've spent quite a bit of time looking at alternative options and have been unable to find these for a number of reasons. The preferred option that has been presented today is a mixed model. So it will provide one site specifically for homeless people. They will be encouraged to move there because of the added benefits. So that would be a toilet, a shower, Wi-Fi, some on-site support, and that we would put an office on site and security at night. But we will also be offering wraparound support and security in the other key sites, Anzac Parade and Springvale. And look, we know that concerns will be consistently heard from any neighbourhood that we put this type of alternative proposed place into. And so, you know, we've worked really hard this time to make sure that we are looking for options that will cause the least amount of disruption across the community. So I'll take my paper as read, and if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. So, from my own perspective, I'd like to indicate that I'd like option 2 to be the preferred option from a personal perspective, but in the meantime I'm going to invite questions or clarification. So, Councillor Rob.
Thank you. First question, Lauren. The recommendations, the motions up here do not refer to the options. So it only refers to 83 Taupo Key. Now, we are not voting, do you see it like this, that we're not voting on either option 1 or option 2?
No.
It's not there. No.
So on what Rob's referring to is that on the, Councillor Rob referring to is on the recommendation, it doesn't actually refer to option 1 mixed model or option 2 closed Taupo Key freedom camping site. Is that correct?
So the recommendations option is either of those options will require us to close the Taupo Key site.
Yeah. So why do we have a preferred option when it doesn't appear to me that we're voting on it.
Okay. David?
Through your worship, just want to try and better understand the councillor's question here. Are you talking about why do we only have 83 Taupoki as the option for the site?
No.
Or am I misunderstanding you?
No, not at all. I'm comfortable with the motions that are up there, but I'm uncomfortable with the choice between option 1 and option 2, given that one has preferred and the other one doesn't, and the mayor has indicated that the preference is the other way around. It doesn't appear that in this voting that members have an opportunity to vote on either option 1 or option 2, because there's a major difference between the two.
Just to clarify, the option 1 that is noted as the preferred one, that is the management's recommendation.
Yeah.
You're absolutely free to move either option and vote on it. We're just signalling which is the management's recommendation. It's as simple as that.
The recommendations don't distinguish between option 1 and option 2, because it sounds to me like option 1 leaves the availability of Anzac and the other one, Springvale, whereas option 2 removes the option of those two. But the recommendations don't make that clear.
So I think what I'd like to do is make that clear on the recommendation, that because it is, per your commentary, Councillor Jenny and others, that recommendation doesn't actually refer to option 1 or option 2, and by default we could actually be voting for option 1.
Can I suggest an amendment?
Okay.
I'd like to suggest that endorses the use of 83 Taupo Key Freedom Camping Site in line with option 1 to provide a temporary site for the supporting homeless people. So option 1, that's the preferred.
No, that's the mixed model option. Which,
but that's what I understand to be management's recommendation. It's allowing an opportunity for choice, whereas option 2 is removing the opportunity for choice.
Okay, my understanding is that I've already indicated that I'd like to
Let's just move it. Mr. Mayor, you've made your view clear at the start of the conversation. However, I have proposed an amendment to A, which endorses, as I've said, in line with option 1.
Okay.
But there's no mover and seconder for any.
I have moved it.
Who seconded it?
I'll second it.
Okay. So I'm just going to have to adjourn for a moment. Another tricky one. So Ben.
I think we should put that on its own.
Oh, I see what they're saying.
Rob?
Yeah, I know what they're saying.
You're gonna, we need to get option 2 on the table, because the big difference is, obviously, option 2 is that we're gonna treat the differences in option 2. This new site is gonna come as homeless, for homeless. No, option 2 is also saying we're gonna treat
in the wording. So I'm going to ask if anyone's got any questions, which we already have a pretty full board. So, Councillor Rob.
So this is...
Push the button, please.
Moved and seconded. As up there, I thought there was an amendment
It's been
coming
moved by
forward.
Councillor Kate and seconded by Councillor Josh.
So this is now the substandard.
Okay.
Conflict, A and B are in conflict. Enforces the use of, temporarily closes.
So freedom camping.
Yeah.
Can't keep talking around and meeting people.
Yeah. So just pause for a moment. I just want to go back to Councillor Kate and Councillor Josh to make sure that you're happy with the wording that you've...
We can, with
moved.
Josh's permission, clarify B to temporarily closes 83 Taupo Quay Freedom Camping Site to Freedom Camping.
Yeah.
Which is,
That's
Okay.
makes it clear, doesn't it?
Okay. Councillor Josh, are you happy with B?
But we need your amendment.
No, hang on, we
Yes, need
don't,
to write your amendment.
we actually don't need to bring in these
Yeah.
options because it's not in the resolution.
Temporarily closes Taupo Quay as a Freedom Camping Site.
No, but we're not dealing with the other sides. We're not dealing with the option B does.
Just one, yeah. Okay. So I just want to make sure that, first of all, Councillor Kate and Josh, you're happy with that wording as it is now that you've requested?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to the board again in the order that it was in. Councillor Charlotte.
Can I get some clarity from your perspective on the benefits of having 3 sites?
I guess it's not the benefits of having 3 sites. It's putting all of the homeless into one site is a risk. And if we have to enforce that and enforce them into that one site, then that does cause ongoing problems.
Okay, so your preference is more around encouragement rather than enforcement.
And if we can encourage them with some of the additional benefits that we're providing, then we potentially may get a number of them to shift, and it might just leave 1 or 2 in those other areas. I guess the overall is that we would be providing the wraparound support and some additional security into those sites, which we haven't been doing.
Okay. Great. Councillor Ross.
Yeah, 2 parts. One to Lawrence, thank you, and then one about a point of clarification that follows separately. From what I heard you saying, and I've read the preceding documents, so we'll provide toilets, hot water showers, Wi-Fi access, an office, and security. Is this a given, or is it? Say, for example, do we have a minimum option of toilets and showers and Wi-Fi, and then at some point, if it's needed, I'm sure you would say the office from MSD is needed, or security might be an option because we can't necessarily automatically assume there's going to be problems that require security straight away. So, to me, this is a big carrot because there's about 5 elements to encourage them to move on. And I'm not sure if I can ask you this question or whether it's the CE, but we're not necessarily buying into everything at once, are we? Is that what you're recommending? We put all 5 of these elements in straight away?
That was the plan, yes.
Okay, thank you. And my... Sorry, David.
Sorry. Through the worship, I might just add to that. So the office is correct that the intention is to go ahead and establish. We want to have a good, strong presence and make sure that this is set up for success. But the intention has always been that some of those elements, particularly the security piece, would be scalable. And if we don't need it, then we would certainly wind it back and reduce the presence. It's part of the reason why in the table you presented with some range on costs, because it represents the scalability. The important thing here is when you make this decision, you do so understanding that there are consequential cost implications that you're committing to. How big they are will be determined by what's actually needed when we get there. And absolutely, if we don't require one of those elements or they're just not used, then we'll scale them back and minimise the cost.
Right, so I could be out of order because it may not be the time to ask this question. Let me know straight away because I'm still learning the ropes here. If we're talking to Lauren.
Question
Oh, sorry. I could be out of order with timing. I'm still learning the procedure. Thanks, Lauren. Councillor Robb has suggested a number of conditions. I'm not sure if you've been made aware of suggestions by the councillor about the terms and conditions of entry and stay, length of stay at a proposed site. Are you aware of additional requirements that we may be asking of people who use this site?
No, we have put together some requirements and started that process, so we'll work with social service providers to be able to think about what exactly we need to do, but we had started a process to look at some rules around behaviour and expectations.
Through your worship, if I can maybe jump in as well, just to add to this. The rules need to have some flexibility in them in terms of being able to adapt them as we go, depending on what our experience is. This is going to be a learning experience for council, more proactively managing a homeless facility. So the rules themselves are not something that we need a resolution from council. Councillor Vinson's suggestions have been noted, and we've certainly taken those on board as we've been evolving and developing our own thinking. But as far as the decision goes today, it's not something you need to cast in stone through the resolution, and you're best off actually allowing officers the flexibility to adapt them as we build experience of running the facility over time. But certainly the requirement for rules is noted, and the suggestions that have been put on the table by elected members so far have been noted. There's a balance to be struck as well, though. We don't want to be too draconian with our rule setting, because ultimately we're doing this because we're trying to wrap some care around our homeless people as much as we are trying to clear the freedom camping sites. So some compassion required in our rule set, as well as governing antisocial behaviour.
Yeah, thank you. Lauren, I don't know whether you've given consideration to how many potential homeless people are going to be on the site and how it's going to be marked out, but my experience is that I've never seen more than 4 vehicles down there, and one time you get a big bus in there, it's very difficult to get others on the other side of 83 Taupo Key. So how many are you thinking of having on that site?
So I went down with facilities and we sort of mapped out what we thought would be workable, which would be about 12.
12. And that allows them to turn around and go back out onto Taupo Key.
Yeah, I guess remembering that there are a few homeless people that have big vehicles, but most of them are in smaller vehicles.
Gee.
What ends?
That's 3 times more than I've ever seen there. Anyway, the other question. Sorry, the other question is around the things like the portable toilets, for instance. Have you given some thought to how these are kept clean and those arrangements? Is this going to be are they going to have to look after them themselves, or what's the story?
No, that will be all part of the support that we are wrapping around that service.
That's part of the 3.6 thousand hire. There's nothing on the proposed budget for cleaning.
through
It's
you.
included in the wraparound support.
It's included in the wraparound support, okay. And as far as the security is concerned, it says here that they will go to the other sites as well. What's the sort of behaviour that the security can control? What are they intending to do?
I guess it's more around a presence. And when we had a contractor working for us the year before last and then through to August last year, having that person on site regularly and interacting with the homeless people and talking to them about expectations and things like that made a big difference. And there certainly was a drop in the number of issues that we were having reported to us while that was happening. So it's around providing that, I guess, that same sort of, for people, that there is some support there, and it will be regular. And it's just, if you're being monitored, you're more likely to, not monitored tightly, but if someone's being monitored, they're more likely to stick to the line.
And last question, you said earlier on that you've had a number of complaints every week about the current sites. Where is the improvement going to be if we still allow people who don't want to shift from those sites to stay on those sites? How is it going to improve the situation?
Again, the wraparound support and the security should make some improvements to that. But we're trying to make the Topol Key site attractive enough for some people to want to go there. We don't have a shower at any of our sites, and some of our sites don't have a toilet currently. And so we are adding those in to make it more attractive for people to be able to want to move to that site.
Thank you.
Councillor Charlie.
Yeah, thank you. Are you or any of the council staff directly direct contact with these people?
No, so compliance is often having some direct contact with them.
Do they feel safe at all times?
No, a number of them don't.
Okay. Councillor Helen.
Thank you, Lauren. So I know this might sound a bit of detail, but what I'm concerned is the fencing in terms of access, especially along to the river from the site, because a lot of people have that. There's that walkway and there's the exercise area. So I presume there's a fence wrapping right around the whole place, just not provide security for everybody, but also some privacy for the people living in that situation. Is there any design on fencing yet or anything like that?
Not at this point. We're going to use, we'll make sure that we use a SEPTED review of the area, which is crime prevention through environmental design. So not necessarily putting up fences is the best option. So we'll just make sure that we look at all of that as we map out the site.
Okay, so you'll carefully consider that issue.
Yeah.
I was worried, it'll just be some hurricane fencing or something, so it's not going to be some horrible, cage. That's very good. So I think the public would be fairly concerned that we're going to spend all this money, and it will be considerable, providing a site, and yet we're not going to enforce the existing bylaws at the other sites. So it's like one group of people, it's two different rules for the general public. I want to go along and Freedom Camp, I'm going to be moved on, but somebody who wants to still sit there on Taupo Key is not going to be moved on. And I just don't understand why we should not enforce our bylaws at those other sites once we provide this facility.
So at no point have we ever not enforced the bylaw. The bylaw is clear around freedom camping, but we had a statement that said that we would provide, that we would, I think it was not, the freedom camping bylaw would not be detrimental to those people that were homeless. And so what we've always said is if they are homeless and signed up with MSD and they have no other option, then that is different to if they're freedom camping. So if someone's there and they choose not to be signed up with MSD, then compliance are treating them as a freedom camper, and they are asked to move on after 4 days.
But surely once we set up the service, there will be another option for them. And wouldn't we then just by rule on everybody on those other sites, we will enforce the bylaw? Why? I don't understand why we wouldn't do that. So that's option 2.
Yeah.
As opposed to option 1. Yeah, I'm just not understanding.
So if you chose option 2, we would enforce that.
Yeah, yeah. Are you seeing any major critical issues? You know, what is wrong with option 2 as opposed to what's currently on here where we're having a very soft approach?
Again, it's enforcing that many people into a small space, that many people that a number of them will have issues, and we're going to bring them all into one small space.
All right.
Bishop, I'd like to move an amendment, a further amendment here, please. And
Sorry, Rob, before you do, there are still a number of people that want to comment. Ask clarification questions. So I'm happy to hear that, but I just want to finish this first because I want to give.
it has to be it has to be taken before this is commented on or spoken to or
Before the motion's put.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
So, Councillor Michael.
Kia ora. Area may get muddy over winter. How muddy? Like, have we got a mitigation strategy for that in winter, or?
I guess we don't currently have one for any of those places, and they're all going to get muddy over winter. It'd be something that we would just take into account, and I guess we could put shoal rock down if we needed to do that at that time.
So it's more of like a low. It gets muddy because it's wet and raining. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And just a comment to the Mayor, some of these are dropping out regularly and therefore we're number one coming up next and then we drop out. So it's not always the order that it says because we're dropping out. And mine's been doing it consistently through this. My first question is, once these resolutions are passed, when do we propose to start or open up Taupo Key?
So we've got some plans in place, but I guess we were waiting for a decision before we go, okay, right, we need this now. And so it'll take us a little bit of time to get some of that, but we
Weeks
have
or
been...
months?
Weeks.
Yep. And then once it's set up, bearing in mind it's looking like 3 sites but 1 preferred, is there going to be an ongoing review or a review date of how it's going with regards to all 3? Is there a intention in that?
Definitely I'll meet with the provider that are providing the wraparound support regularly, and I will still be getting reports on what's happening in those areas. So I can provide a feedback at a set time if that's what you'd like.
I think it's for your own purposes, is it working or isn't it? And then the last question is around security, because it sounded like, David, you mentioned we're going to scale it back rather than scale it up. So are we going to start with extra security to start off with and bring it back if not needed, or what? And I'm also aware, before you comment, a lot of behaviour that we potentially don't want could be in the evenings as opposed to during the day when we have, standard working hours.
Yeah. So through your worship, first of all, comment on the review. So effectively, this is new territory for council getting into delivering this kind of operation. So it's effectively going to be kept under constant review and will be course correcting and evolving what we do as we learn. Regarding your second point, no. We're effectively going to start off with a baseline level of security based on our best guess of what's going to be most effective. And then again, through an iterative learning process, we have the option to either scale up or down, depending on need.
Thank you very much.
I just want to look at... Thank you. Yes, Lauren, has any discussion, consultation with neighbouring residents and businesses occurred at all around the proposal to use 83 Taupo Key as the homeless area?
No, not at this point, because there are currently homeless people living there.
And, going on some previous, our Grey Street experience, do we have concerns around that? Our Grey Street... Yeah.
Through your worship, I'll jump in on this one. Key point of difference here is 83 Taupo Key is not surrounded by residential properties like the Grey Street property was. And there's a very small number of commercial industrial properties either side, so significantly smaller in terms of the likely issues that we're going to encounter. And effectively what we're doing is continuing the status quo. As Ms Tamiho has already said, it's already been used by homeless people. We're just putting in some better wraparound services to make sure that it continues to be as well managed as possible. So there's not really anything to materially enough to warrant consulting on, would be my view at this point.
Councillor Ross.
Yes, thank you, Lauren. I heard the key words from the CE about compassion, and having experienced homelessness, I appreciate compassion being extended to people who find themselves in this situation. So it might sound contrary, but this is a small site. There are some people there now. There are a few in Anzac Parade. I've noticed that there are less during summer and more during winter for various reasons. That's anecdotally my own observations. People need to be somewhere. By providing these services, supports for these people, which I support, is there a view of, because it's a small site, of how long those whom are homeless can remain in that situation? One, if more people come in than sites available, and two, how long will they be there? If they're with MSD and they're registered for emergency housing, which can be 1 to 2 years, I'm hearing, and you can go down the list because more urgent people come up. Are we saying to the homeless who are at this site, this is your home, and as long as you follow the rules during this 12 to 24 months period, we will not move you on at some point, because it's funded at the moment for up to 24 months. So is there a view to move people on at some point?
I guess that's, again, something that we'll review as we go along, depending on what's happening with those people. We still have a really large social housing register here in Whanganui, which is up to, I think the last time we got information was up over 400. So often people that are just single people, single males, they're not going to be anywhere near the top of the criteria list to be able to get any emergency housing.
Yeah.
So 1 to 2 years sitting on a social housing register is not uncommon at all. And then remembering this is a short term, and we are working on a longer term option or a medium term option, as we're going through. So this will be happening. We'll be putting this work into this other option as well, and with a bit of luck, we might be able to shorten the time that they're there and have a longer term option.
So stating the obvious, I think that when this other longer term option becomes available, we hope for, would council be looking at closing down that, or would it still be a temporary site, or that would be reviewed in 24 months' time?
That would be reviewed, but yeah, at that point that would be reviewed.
Thank you.
Through your worship, just for clarity, this is the item in the report in front of you today is the interim stopgap solution whilst we progress that permanent one. So the intention has always been that once a permanent facility was made available, that this would then be returned to a normal freedom camping site. I think just if I may make some comments on your previous question as well, is we need to be mindful, because I know there has been some discussion around how long people should be allowed to stay in whatever site we set up. Bearing in mind, as Ms Tamiha has already alluded to, there is potentially a long wait list for people, particularly if you are not ticking a lot of the criteria that prioritises you in MSD's books. They could be waiting a long time. There isn't really anywhere else to go. So if we're going to put time limits on and say you can only stay at this site for a month, 2 months, 3 months, where do they go next? And this solution is less than perfect. And you've heard me say this before, it is progress, not perfection. This is better than the status quo, because at least we can provide some compassionate wraparound services and support that they don't have, but it does not fix the problem. And we're a long way from a silver bullet that'll achieve that. So, yeah, keep that mantra, progress, not perfection, in the front of your minds as you're considering this place.
Thank you. A question for David. So item C of this recommendation talks about the provision of unbudgeted expenditure, and obviously the item has a range there. I just want to seek reassurance that if for whatever reason the expenditure falls over or goes over the 376, that it would come back to this council for a further decision.
Through you, Your Worship, yes, that's correct. At that level, I think you're exceeding my delegation of authority anyway, so I would be required to bring it back to you. This part of the resolution is really probably only going to be relevant for the remainder of this part of the financial year, this current financial year, because subject to the decisions you make here today, we'll then start factoring it into the annual plan budget for the following year, so it will become budgeted expenditure rather than unbudgeted. But this part of the resolution at least covers the gap from now to 30 June.
That's great, thank you.
So look, at this stage, can I just ask Rob, you've alerted us to a change in the amendment. Can you advise what you wish to propose? Can you just put your microphone on, please?
All that's required is to add a D, and that is to say that the WDC enforces the rules and restrictions of the Freedom Camping bylaw for all users at all other sites.
And it's not that fast.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I believe Councillor Baker Hogan is seconding it.
Okay, we'll just first we'll get it written down first. Councillor Kate.
Thank you. I have a question. Currently, is WGC enforcing the rules and restrictions of the Freedom Camping bylaw? Noting that there is a provision in there for people that are genuinely homeless. So my question is, are we currently enforcing the Freedom Camping bylaw?
Yes.
Thank you.
But that's different, Kate. No, it's not. Yes, it is different because it says for all users, okay? So there's no distinguishing between homeless or freedom campers.
Okay.
So what I just heard is in contrary to A of the recommendations.
I jump in on this one, please. Subparts A and D are in conflict with each other because B effectively seeks to make this motion the equivalent of option 2. So I don't think we can actually allow that. What you need to do is vote on this motion. If it fails, then you move option 2, which is the equivalent of what you're seeking to achieve with subpart D.
Hang on, just leave A. Can you leave A there, please? Because it's changed from the agenda here.
Yep.
Quite poorly. We're endorsing a freedom camping site. And then we go and change, I mean,
So haven't.
do we need, it just reads poorly.
It doesn't conflict at all because it just says that we endorse 83 Taupo Quay as the temporary site for freedom camping for homeless,
No,
and the other sites remain
Sorry.
open.
Just
Why is it conflict?
Mr Mayor, can I
Yeah.
suggest another amendment to A?
Okay.
Just to provide further clarity. So with Josh's permission,
Yeah.
we would change this to endorses the use of 83 Taupo Quay to provide a temporary site for supporting homeless people, noting the other freedom camping sites will remain open. And then we would close, I mean, you might put B first, but it doesn't really matter. They can be concurrent. Temporarily closes 83 as a freedom camping site. So that should, so if you just remove to provide, that's right, that's up.
Yeah, that's all right.
So Josh, Councillor Josh, are you happy with that too? Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
That doesn't conflict with our amendment, though.
So the difference between option one, which is this one, is that the other freedom camping sites can still be used by homeless people. Option two makes Taupo Quay the only site that can be used by homeless people. And your subpart D, by enforcing for all users the freedom camping bylaw, means that any homeless people at any other freedom camping sites will be moved on. So it becomes equivalent to option two.
Yes.
Yep.
So you've effectively, by adding option D, you're giving yourselves the choice of option two or option two. You can't do that. You need to vote on option one, which is as the resolution in A is written. And then if it fails, you can move an alternative, which is to then change the wording so that it reads that only Taupo Quay is used as the site for the homeless.
And option 4 is do nothing as well.
Okay. So Councillor Kate and Josh, they're happy with the wording. So with D, are we recommending, David, that we take out D?
Well,
That would be my advice, because I think procedurally it's not possible, because you're turning option one into option two.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah. So it basically counters the whole thing.
Your Worship, option A doesn't say anything about option one.
A has been written to reflect what is in option one, which is that we will provide Taupo Quay as the preferred location for homeless people, but still allow them to remain at other sites if they choose not to move to Taupo Quay.
Okay.
Yep. Option two is there is no choice. They must go to Taupo Quay or vacate the freedom camping sites. And that is effectively what you're saying with your subpart D. They must vacate the other freedom camping sites and can only relocate to the Taupo Quay site, which makes it the same as option two. So you can't move a motion to change option one into option two.
It doesn't say option one.
Have better clarity when it finishes with the word homeless. Remains open to homeless. Because that then makes it really clear we're including them, not just keeping the site open.
Yeah. That's I think that's a helpful addition. So Councillor Kate and Councillor Josh, are you happy with that addition to homeless? So look, I think the best way is to stick with A, B and C, and that we take that to comments.
I'd like to speak to that, Mr Mayor, and reserve my right of reply.
Okay.
I strongly recommend to my colleagues that we approve A, B and C. There is no perfect solution to the issue of homelessness. This is just a step by this council to show compassion, kindness and a place to go. I think it's really important that we reserve the right for some homeless people not to go to Taupo Key, because I think that will enhance the opportunity for this initiative to succeed. That said, I think there is nothing that would stop it coming back to this table if it, while the issue is under review, if it was deemed that we should be more directive about where homeless people can be. This, to my thinking, is a compassionate approach. It is a lighter touch and allows us to be more nimble and provide for different eventualities. So I really recommend that, if nothing else, as a first step to create a better environment for our homeless.
Okay, great, thank you. David, did you?
No, sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Councillor Ross? Comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm a little bit uneasy about all the conversations going on. Standing orders are standing orders, and I think we're way out of sync with it in some respect by popping an amendment in the middle of a motion. My understanding is, and I'm not trying to be too cruel, but I think we're at the point now where it's correct. You have the motion that's intended by Kate and Josh up the top, and underneath we have a possible amendment to vote on. I think that's what David was saying there. So I think we've got clarity now, but the process to getting there is a little bit messy. I think I've got clarity now. So if I've got it right, at some point we're going to vote on that motion that Kate and Josh have been tweaking for the last 20 minutes. And then when we've got a decision on that, we then look at the amendment to be added to that motion. Because it's an add-on.
It might be messy. We actually are following standing orders. There is a process that we can actually put amendments in, but if you look at the flow chart, it's not that. It is quite challenging to keep up with it for me anyway, as new to this. So I'd push back against that. We're not following standing orders. We are. It's just Well,
with respect, Mr Mayor, we weren't at one point, because when we had the motion up, and Rob was mentioning an amendment, in the middle of that motion, the amendment was being typed. It's since been removed. And it's like something on the go, and it should be kept separate. And I guess it's right now. I'm saying standing orders are correct now, but earlier it was a little bit messy for me.
I was just socialising the idea to see if the mover and the seconder were happy with that or not. That's the reason why it was in there, and then it was taken.
Then it was taken out.
So that because they have the ability to say yes, that's okay, or no, it isn't.
Okay.
Your Worship.
So through you, Worship, just a comment from me. I think I understand where the elected member is coming from. We are trying to craft something a little bit on the fly here because we're starting to broaden the scope of what we're asking council to make a decision on here today. The substantive issue is, do you want us to provide a facility for the homelessness, and at what location? And is it exclusively the 83 Taupo Key, or is it still allowing some tolerance for homeless people to occupy some of the other freedom camping sites? If we can keep it to that, the matter remains relatively simple and straightforward. You've already signalled your commitment to do something. Taupo Key is the preferred site. How exclusive do you want it to be? If we start then roping in additional subparts to the resolution around enforcing the freedom camping bylaw, introducing rules of use, all of those things, this thing is going to get more complicated and more messy as we go. Happy to deal with those other things separately, and we can always bring reports back on those matters if that's what you would like. but my advice to you would be keep it to the substantive issue which we need a decision on, which is, do you want the exclusive or non-exclusive use as Taupoki as the Freedom Camping facility you've asked officers to deliver for you? And then we can lock that in, move on and deal with the other matters as we go.
Thank you. Councillor Philippa.
Thank you. So I'm speaking to these resolutions as I understand them, A, B and C, correct? Yes, as stated in the election, most of us, and certainly me, definitely want to support moving quickly on a homeless solution. However, I'm really concerned, and more since, I guess, since feedback around Grey Street and valid concerns, even much wider than that. But in that case, of course, you know, valid concerns around consultation. And now we get to a situation, look, we know there's no easy answer, but, you know, obviously we have some new apartments. We have a river bank, Fitness Park we've just opened, and very close to that area. I've had a lot of feedback from the community, particularly since the noise around Grey Street, but much wider than it. And the ratepayer has just taken too much burden. And I believe, you know, that we need to get tougher and clearer in this issue. Or we're spending up to $376,000 of unbudgeted money of ratepayer funding. I don't want to.
Can you put your microphone on again, please? It's just for some reason switched off.
I don't want to get into the reasoning or well-being of our homeless people. Obviously, it is very complex, but we have just heard we have up to 2 complaints every week, valid complaints from people around the issue, particularly in Anzac Parade. We need to be more directive. Whanganui District Council has been too slow in over, you know, nearly 3 years, not just, the last council, which I was a part of, muddying the water in this whole issue. These resolutions, to me, they need to be either Taupo. I could nearly have supported A before it has now got those extra words noting that other freedom camping sites will remain open to homeless. But now we're just muddying the water again, and we're telling people that we are doing all this support, fantastic, around 83 Taupo, but actually, if you're homeless, you can still stay on the other sites. And although I have heard that we do have some enforcement of our freedom camping bylaw, we also have, it's not absolutely, it's got some exceptions around it. And it's just not good enough for the rest of our community and the ratepayers that are paying. So unfortunately, I will not be supporting Resolution A. I will support Resolution B. I will support Resolution C, and I strongly recommend that we do need the Resolution D, which, just as a reminder, is that the Whanganui District Council enforces the rules and restrictions of the Freedom Camping Bylaw 2001 at all other sites. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippa. So I'm very conscious of time. I just want to do a quick check-in. Are we okay with time?
We're okay with that.
Okay, that's right.
It goes for as long as it takes.
Yeah. No, it's just the agenda indications we're kind of gone a bit overboard, but that's fine. Councillor Peter.
Yes, I need not a comment but some advice. I want to vote for option 1, the mixed model. How do I go about it now? Because boy, am I confused.
It's not on the table.
Yeah?
Option 1.
Yep.
Yeah, so I vote for yes for all 3 of them.
Okay, great. So as part of that's great. So you cut to the chase, but there are others that wanted to have comments. So I'm going to go to Councillor Josh.
Thank you. When I was in school, I was introduced to the concept of tūranga waiwai, which in Te Ao Māori is having a place to stand. And I think it's really important for us to remember here today that homeless people have, in many respects, lost that place. They've lost that place to stand. They've lost that place to feel as though they have stability and a sense of belonging. And for us, we've got an opportunity here as a council to step into that space and not fill it completely, but to fill a gap that many of these people have in terms of not having that stability. And I think it's important to come at this issue from that perspective. I'm not, I'm not in favour of a punitive approach towards homeless people. Homeless people are not prisoners. They're not cattle. They don't deserve to be instructed on where they can go and where they can't go. They're homeless. They don't have any options. And as a council, we've got an opportunity here to provide a space of safety for them. And we're also being pragmatic and acknowledging that the space that we're offering may not be suitable for all homeless people. They may, for whatever reason, not feel safe there. They may have other friends or family who are at their current site and they want to stay there for whatever reason. And so this pragmatic option allows us to provide a space, provide resourcing, and also ensure that the other sites are safe for the people who choose to live there, and are also safe for the people in the neighbourhoods nearby that also live in the area. And so for me, I want to thank officers, I want to thank Lauren, I want to thank David for having the proactivity and the bravery to bring these recommendations to us, because let's be honest, local government is not naturally involved in the provision of accommodation or housing for homeless people, but we have been essentially forced into the space because of a lack of government resourcing. And I'm proud of that for doing that. I'm proud of us for really giving weight to our housing strategy and for supporting our homeless brothers and sisters in the Whanganui District. So thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Next is Councillor Helen.
Thank you. Thanks, Lauren, for all that hard work that you've done over since COVID started. I think we asked your team to get involved, and it's been outstanding, and I know it's been really hard as well, and I do appreciate all that effort and it's taken a long time and a lot of struggle. Look, I know that our council is responding to antisocial behaviour at our freedom camping sites. I mean, that's the big issue. And we are responding by providing a site with more services that they'll hopefully move to. And my understanding is if it doesn't work, we'll have to reevaluate what we're doing. Look, I think the public have been incredibly tolerant, but they're also incredibly unhappy about what's going on because it's their rights that are also impinged. You know, they're finding that their enjoyment of these public spaces is really affecting their lifestyles as well. And I would rather the homeless were actively discouraged from our other freedom camping sites. But I've talked to my colleague Kate, and she strongly recommends that we see how this goes. So I'll be voting for A, B and C, and it can be re-evaluated at a later date because I realise that we're not quite sure how it's going to work out, and we certainly don't want a very bad incident if we were to force it at this time, but I'm going to keep a watching eye on it. But my biggest disappointment is apparent lack of support from government agencies. You know, we have formulated the solution. I don't mean we, our staff have, and we're funding it. Where are they? I haven't heard that they're contributing anything at all. And I would suggest that we invite the relevant agencies and our MP to the council table to discuss this in public, because this is just not good enough in my opinion. Thank you very much.
Can I say that great point, Councillor Helen? I'll just respond to that. I have spoken to our MP, Steph Lewis, about government stepping up. I've spoken to MSD also about contributing to funding as well, and other agencies as well. So it's on the table, but we put it to them. You're right, they haven't actively come to us, but I think we've got absolutely the right to do that. So thank you for that. Councillor Michael.
I think like some people on my left here, a lot of us are very confused and trying to add things to this interim. I really dislike this recommendation approach. We had 4 nice options that were very simple. We could have chose one of them, and now we've got one option, and it doesn't matter what I have to say, we all have already started this debate around one option, which is getting quite confusing. Yeah, so this motion now has been clouded. Even though it should be a celebration, I'm going to bring it down a notch and say that we've clouded this process with this recommendation. It should have been, even just your D, Rob and Philippa, your D should have actually been left on there, because option 2 was put there. So I'm a little bit upset by that, to be honest. For that reason, I'll probably be abstaining.
Thank you. Councillor Rob?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I would point out at this time that the procedure is that an amendment can be put at any time. Any member of this room can make an amendment when that motion is up there on the screen. And it has to be taken by the chair. What the Chief Executive pointed out, that my amendment was a direct negative, and that is the only grounds for refusing it. Once it's accepted, it has to be taken, and if it becomes carried, it becomes a substantive motion. That is the correct procedure, and it might have been confusing, but that's how it works. As far as the freedom camping is concerned, the central government brought in a Freedom Camping Act, and they said that freedom camping was legal anywhere in New Zealand. They made it illegal for councils to actually prohibit putting a boundary around a city and saying no freedom camping in the city. They said you had to define areas and there had to be rules around it. So the point is that I've heard members here saying, oh, these freedom camping people, the homeless people, haven't got a place to go to. They've got the whole city. They can go and park on Anzac Parade if they want to. There's nothing stopping anybody parking a vehicle and living in it under this Freedom Camping Act. That should be quite clear. What we're doing is we're trying to bring in some rules and regulations to cater for the genuine freedom campers, the people who visit Whanganui. You know, there's literally thousands of them. And they are genuine people who come to enjoy Whanganui. We put a time limit on it of 4 nights. There's nothing unusual about that. Most places have 3 nights. We were quite liberal in having 4 nights. And the whole point of creating that space down there, and I believe Councillor Helen put that motion forward to create that Anzac Parade Freedom Camping area, was to cater for those genuine visitors to Whanganui. Homeless people have been a problem because we felt during the COVID time that we couldn't say, you've got to leave this particular spot, because they theoretically had nowhere to go. So we had to find a spot, and we've found that spot at 83 Taupo Quay. I have reservations about it because I think it'll be too small. But if we're not going to enforce the bylaw on the existing sites, what are we gaining? You know, we've got a situation now where it's being abused. Now, I saw on Facebook a couple of nights ago someone saying, oh, I'm coming down to Whanganui with my bus and I want to find a place to park. Has anybody got a bit of land? I'm willing to do a bit of work and things. And then there was comments coming through, go and park down by the river, it's free. Why pay for rent and things like that? You can park down there. You know, the whole thing is being abused. If you look at the situation out at Springvale Stadium, there's a character out there who's got a bus nearly as long as this room that set himself up with LED lights around it. And he's been there for, I don't know, for 6 months that I can recall. This is the sort of abuse that's going on. Yes, let's have 83 Taupo Key for the homeless people, but let's get back to the original plan for the other freedom sites and enforce the bylaw. And I will be, along with Councillor Philippa, if this resolution fails, we will move another resolution that incorporates option 2. Thank you.
Councillor Charlie.
Yeah. I really worry about this. I have my doubts about the success or otherwise of it. I worry about our staff safety. I worry we're going to use ratepayers' money to fund this when it should be central government. And I'm just not quite sure which I'm going to go on this at the moment. I may or may not vote for it, I'm not sure. It's coming.
Right. All right, thanks. Councillor Glenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren, and your team for all the work that you've done towards this. I will be supporting this. I really feel that everyone deserves to have a place to call home, and everyone deserves to feel valued as part of the community. And I see this as one option, providing this area at Taupo Key for the homeless to be. It is temporary, and it will be monitored and it will be reviewed, and I'm really comfortable about that. No space will ever be perfect, but this is temporary. Thanks.
Right, Councillor Ross.
Yeah, I'll be supporting A, B and C. I just want to split hairs. Homeless people are not the problem. These are human beings, they're not a problem. They need, as Josh said, we all deserve a place to stand. Resolving homelessness is the challenge, but the people are not the problem. That's a negative, and I am not a negative.
Great, thank you for that. So, look, the screens are now empty. I think the overriding feeling for me and for all of us, these are human beings that, and I've talked about this in the past, that require, and for whatever reason they've found a challenge in life where they don't have a home over their head. And I've talked to a number of these people, and it's a very complex situation. At the end of the day, we're here for our community, as I said in my little mayoral speech at the start, that we're here for the community, and these people are part of our community. And at the end of the day, we need to show compassion and care for them, and so on. So that's what it should be about. That's it.
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah.
Andrew said, I guess you're about to go to the voting, but can we have clarity around what we're seeing up here is there's an amended motion, looks like maybe it hasn't been approved properly yet, and all that stuff in red. We also have D sitting there, and I would also want to ask that we vote separate. So what motions are on the table? Has the amended motion been approved yet to be on the table? And is D on the table or not, please?
No.
And can we take the resolutions separately, please? Voting for them only. We've all spoken.
Okay, so we're going to take to the vote A, B and C. Yep, so we'll do them separately. Yep, do them separately. So we're going to vote for A, B and C, but we're going to vote for them separately. So I'll put the motion on the screen for A, which is endorses the use of the 83 Taupo Quay to provide a temporary site for supporting homeless people, noting that other freedom camping sites will remain open to homeless. All of those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
All those against? 3. Okay. I didn't vote, but okay. Well, I didn't. Yeah, okay. Should I have to? Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I'll vote in favour. Against the motion's carried anyway. So go to B, which is temporarily closes 83 Taupo Quay as a freedom camping site.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Against? Abstain? Okay. Motion's carried. Item C authorises the Chief Executive to provide unbudgeted expenditure for the operational costs of the temporary homeless support site over the next 12 to 24 months. All those in favour?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Against? Okay, carried. It should be noted that in item C that there will be a follow-up to Councillor Hallen's point with the MP and government providers for financial assistance. Right. So,
Done. So now they've become the substantive motion. So
just pause for a moment. Item 9.4, adoption of Whanganui District Council Governance Manual 2022-2025. I'd like to invite you, Anna, I think, to talk to this.
hello. I'm Anna. No. So this is the adoption of the Whanganui District Council Governance Manual. Essentially, the committees can't operate without terms of reference. So within this document, you'll find that there are terms of reference for some committees. You'll note that 2 of them, the Community Funding Grants Subcommittee and the Aspirations and Projects Committee, aren't included, and neither are the advisory boards. But that will be dealt with in stage 2, and it should come to you at the 21st of March council meeting. So you'll have, and then the document will be able to be adopted in its entirety. Points to note: compared for last triennium structure to this triennium structure, we have some of the committees have more delegations than before. So that's a key part to note. And also that you'll see that there's a couple of additional recommendations up there where we would like to put a real community board member on the Strategy and Policy Committee and the Ops and Performance Committee, and also appoint Charlie Anderson to the Regulatory Hearings Committee. So, yeah, I'll take the report as read. And any questions?
Councillor Josh, you're quick off the mark there.
Thanks. Just a really brief one. Could the spelling of my name under Regulatory Hearings Committee please be corrected?
Yes, it can.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Councillor Philippa.
Yeah, looks good. I mean, thank you, a lot of work done. But I want to ask, so in particular, as a chair of I think what's going to be changed from a working party name, but the Sport and Recreation Working Group or whatever it's going to be renamed, for example, what are we meant to do in the interim when we have no terms of reference? I am, obviously very interested in that area, as are the members on it, and I'm sure all council. We're going to be at least 5 months post-election before we actually even have some terms of reference. There are some, major projects underway, like the rebuild of the Velodrome track, which I've, as this stage, had very little input into. And I am just really concerned actually about that with no terms of reference, particularly with some of the discussions we are having, which around the annual plan and budgets. I don't know if you can answer. Maybe the Chief Executive can help, Anna.
So the advisory boards sit slightly different to the committees, and they their terms of they can carry on with the terms of reference that they currently have. However, it's the committees that need the terms of reference approved within this to be able to operate. The advisory boards can continue with the terms of reference that they have.
Okay, and just so clarification, there are new members, but we could continue with the current terms of reference, but I would definitely expect, and I do believe, the terms of reference need to be reviewed. Okay. And that advisory board, those members need to be a part of that whole discussion with council in the first place around that. So. Yes, is that I want some clarity that I would want some discussion. I believe the terms of reference need to be reviewed.
So through your worship, yes, that's correct. The intention is to review them, and the intention is to include the relevant people, elected members, in the process of recasting those terms of reference.
Thank you.
Councillor Peter.
Yes, in the manual, mayonnaise has a spelling mistake.
And where? What page?
On the Operations and Performance Committee.
Okay.
Right at the top, it says mayo, whereas it should read mayonnaise.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, we've got a mover and a seconder. So any comments? Councillor Helen seconder, is that right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So Councillor Kate.
My only comment is to thank Anna and her team for all their hard work. They're doing a grand job.
Most exciting novel I've read in a long time. Please don't minute that.
All right. It's empty. So look, I'd reinforce that. We've obviously been through a process where everyone's been involved in the development of the committee structure and so on. So I think because of that, we don't have a full board here, and everyone feels informed and involved in it, and the intent of the new structure as well, which Anna pointed to. But ultimately, it's there more increased delegations, but also an emphasis on execution and delivery, getting stuff done. So
hang on, I've spoken yet.
Oh, you didn't pop up, so you
Oh, I'm there on mine.
All right, yeah, I see you now. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, thank you. Yes, this is a new committee structure, as returning councillors will be aware, and it's quite a change in the way that the committees are set up to one basically a two standing committee arrangement, main committees where most of the business of council will go through. Now, I did make the point earlier on that this is very much a back to the future arrangement. We have had operations and reporting committees, and we have had strategy and policy committee, and it was changed and to a more activity-based committee structure. I'm certainly happy to endorse this new structure, but with the proviso that we have a review at the appropriate time, and I believe that we have set that time for 12 months. Is that right, Your Worship?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So when that 12 months kicked off, I haven't communicated when that is, but I didn't want to have a mid-term review. I felt waiting 18 months might be a bit too long, so it might be towards the end of this year that we review progress. So
yeah,
maybe November or something, but that's subject to.
Yeah. So certainly, as I said, I do endorse it, but I have reservations in this type of structure through previous experience. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Look, there's no further comments at the moment, so I'm going to put the motion that's on the screen that Council A adopts the Whanganui District Council Governance Manual 2022-25, reference 1. And delegates, what is that, 1.1 is it? Or 11? Reference 1. And delegates those powers and responsibilities as listed in the manual. B, notes that staff will present amendments to the manual at the 21 March 2023 council meeting to incorporate the terms of reference for remaining committees and the advisory boards. There's a couple of additional appointment recommendations, so C, 3, C, D and E. So C appoints Whanganui Rural Community Board member Julian Bailey to the Strategy and Policy Committee with speaking rights. D appoints Whanganui Rural Community member Michael Dick to the Operations and Performance Committee with speaking rights. And E appoints Councillor Charlie Anderson to the Regulatory Hearings Committee. So,
What about voting rights? No voting rights?
no, just speaking rights is, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, all those in favour? Against? Items carried. Right, so next item on the agenda is minutes to receipt.
Yep, so we've got none.
So the next item is minutes to receipt. There's actually none, so we'll move to the motion to exclude the public, that the public be excluded from the following parts of the proceedings of this meeting, namely items listed on page 96 of the agenda. Mover, Jenny, Councillor Jenny, seconder, Councillor Philippa. All those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. And what we're going to do, it says in my notes here, to adjourn for morning